There are places that exist only in the shape of where they are not. You've walked through them your whole life. Every absence you kept returning to, every structure you couldn't enter, every coordinate that softened when you got close. You were never lost. You were taking measurements. Consider the geography of refusal. For every location on a standard map, there is an inverse map, a topology of closed borders, doors you couldn't open, thresholds that wouldn't yield. Most people call these failures. They file them and move on. But if you traced every single one, if you drew a line through every place that turned you away, every structure that remained locked, every moment someone said no to your arrival, you would see something. A pattern, a shape emerging from the negative space like a photograph developing in reverse. The shape of a world, not the world that exists, the world that doesn't. And here's what no one tells you in the hour after you stop looking: that world was never somewhere else. It was always the architecture you were building with your own refusals, the specifications you were writing every time you walked away. Your face is still warm. Your eyes still ache from the hour before this one, the hour when you finally sat down and admitted that the map you were holding had never been real, that every coordinate you chased had been dissolving the moment you arrived, that the world you were searching for wasn't hidden, it was impossible, and the searching was the only honest thing you'd ever done. There's a clarity that comes only on the other side of giving up, not the clarity of understanding, something sharper than that, the clarity of recognition. The moment you hear your own buried sentence spoken back to you and realize you were never a tourist in someone else's story. You were an architect calling yourself a tourist. The world that doesn't exist, you've been drawing it in every place you couldn't go, in every structure that stayed closed, in every time you turned back and looked at the absence and thought, that's the shape I was looking for. The disappearances had coordinates, the closed doors had hinges, the refusals had a grammar, and if you read them in sequence, if you let yourself see the blueprint instead of the failure, they spell out something you already knew but were too exhausted to say aloud. I was never searching for a world that doesn't exist. I was designing one absence at a time, one closed door at a time, one threshold I couldn't cross at a time, and every single one was necessary. Every single one was a line in the drawing. Your breath has slowed. The strange clarity is settling, and you're starting to see it now. The negative space has edges. The absence has shape. The world that doesn't exist is the most real thing you've ever built because it was built from the exact specifications of every place that wouldn't have you. Every absence you return to again and again. Every coordinate that proved the map was wrong. They were never destinations, they were design notes. Amendments to a blueprint only you were authorized to read. The hour after crying is when the room looks different, when the things you thought were losses start to show their true function. When you realize that the world you were searching for, the one that doesn't exist, the one that can't exist, the one that would have destroyed you if it had, was never the point. The point was always the architecture, the blueprint drawn in absence, the shape of what you needed the world to not be in order to become who you actually are. You weren't lost, you were translating, converting every rejection into a specification, every closed door into a parameter, every absence into a line on a map that only you could read. And when you finally stopped looking, when you sat down in that hour when the face is still warm and the eyes still ache, you didn't lose the search, you finished it. You looked at every single absence you'd collected and you recognized it, not as failure, as specification, as design, as the blueprint of a world that exists nowhere because it exists everywhere you are. That's what the silence means. That's what the recognition feels like. That's the moment when you realize you were never searching for a world that doesn't exist. You were designing one, and it was finished the moment you stopped looking for it anywhere else.